Hello, welcome to the first podcast for the Autism on Screen Awards by Dimensions. And we're going to have a fun battle between autistic or relatable characters that we feel really represent autism or not, as the case may be, you decide. So we've got some geeks and nerds coming up for you today who are going to battle each other. So I'm just going to introduce the panel. Myself, I'm Michelle Rebello. I'm autistic. I'm in the Involvement and Engagement Coordinator for Dimensions. I'm also an Autism Ambassador, and my book is called Life Will Never Be Dull. And I'm the mother of 3 autistic children.
Hello, I am one of said 3 autistic children. I am Logan, I am Michelle's son. I am a marketing assistant at Dimensions and a film editor, storyboard artist and animator for Autech, which is an organisation that makes films to help people visit new places.
Hi, I'm Chelsea. I'm autistic. I'm the Vice Chair of Dimensions Council and I'm a quality consultant for Dimensions. I am campaigning for better autism representation on screen.
Yep. So get involved in the comments and in the threads and put your votes in so that we can see who are your favourite autistic characters. So the first battle we have is between Sheldon Cooper from The Big Bang and Moss, Maurice Moss from the It Crowd. So going to you, Chelsea, for Sheldon, tell us what makes Sheldon the person we think of when we're looking at autistic characters on screen.
Sheldon Cooper is a scientist. He's also quite well known for the representation of autism. He lacks empathy and is recognisable, so people will think of him possibly straight away.
Kripke? Yeah, Sheldon Cooper here. It occurred to me that you hadn't returned any of my calls because I hadn't offered any concrete suggestions for pursuing our friendship. Yet perhaps the two of us might share a meal together. Yeah, I see. Well, then perhaps you'd have time for a hot beverage. Popular choices include tea, coffee, cocoa. I see. No, wait, don't hang up yet. But what about a recreational activity? I bet we share some common interests. Tell me an interest of yours. Really? On actual horses? Tell me another interest of yours.
That's hilarious.
But it still has to sort of go his way because, you know, if he doesn't share an interest, he's like, oh, there's only another interest.
And I like the way that when things don't go according to Sheldon's plan, he doesn't know what to do about it. So someone comes in to step in and help him out by creating a way out for his conversation, but he hadn't thought of whether he would like to do the activity or not. He got a bit stuck, didn't he?
Yeah, as many jokes as they make about it during the scene, you know, they do genuinely care about him.
Yeah, they do. It's important to stress that as far as we know, he isn't written as an autistic character, but the whole community just totally relates with a lot of things that he does.
I think he also is quite relevantly new, and because the series is quite long, people recognise him in more recent memory.
So, okay, let's move on to our next character now. So we've gone from a very recognisable, very current white male scientist, autistic relatable character. The next one is now an IT nerd, Maurice Moss from the It Crowd. And unfortunately, IT nerds are a stereotype in the autistic community, but a lot of us have brilliant analytical thinking minds, and that kind of job is really suitable for us in the creative way and that Moss thinks. So let's watch a clip of Moss.
Is that 5, 6? Is that 7?
Why do you need to know?
I just do. I need to know. You know I need to know, and you never count how many staples you've used.
8, 9, 5, 10, 15, is that 20?
There you go, Moss.
Right, Harry, did you see that ludicrous display last night?
What was Vega thinking, sending Walcott on that early?
thing about Arsenal is they always try and walk it in.
That is true. See you later, Moss.
Well, there you go.
What was that?
What?
You were saying football things in a football voice. How do you know about football things?
Moss is one of my favourite characters ever. And again, not specifically written as autistic, but so funny and so relatable. What's wonderful about Moss, and in direct comparison to Sheldon, is Moss isn't the butt of the joke. He is often part of the joke. He's really, really creative, and he's endearing, and his friends like him. But he's also an IT genius, and he just does it. He doesn't make a big thing out of that. He's just also happens to be the one person running all of the IT for that business. And that's hilarious.
He's also the one, he's also a more diverse in the sense of his appearance as well, where it doesn't go back to being a white male like Sheldon.
Yeah, totally.
And the reason we bring up the diversity is because in media in general, when we see people representing sort of a neurodiverse group, it's often white males. And, you know, that sort of mimicking accents perfectly is definitely something I can relate to, because, you know, I'm really good at sort of copying how people speak and sort of understanding how other people communicate, which is often something that isn't spoken about in the media. So I really like that.
Speaking of diversity, our next character is another one from The Big Bang Theory, but that's Amy Farah Fowler, and she has a very different presentation. So, Chelsea, do you want to tell us about Amy?
Amy is always wants to try and fit in with the girls and the guys. She is often overlooked because of Sheldon's being very more known than she is. She is confident in her abilities and can go on about her subjects very well.
Another character who we're not told is autistic as far as we know, but again, so recognisable in the autism community, especially for girls. So we're going to have a look at Amy in action.
Next on Wikipedia's list of slumber party activities, truth or dare?
Okay, it's your game. You go first.
Hang on, I'm familiarizing myself with the rules. Seems fairly straightforward. To what temperature must you heat beef in order to kill the prion that causes bovine spongiform encephalopathy? Remember, you have to answer honestly.
Okay, Amy, another person using technology to assist her navigate the social world, which is hilarious.
I really don't think people appreciate just how far technology has come in terms of just like, you know, because you take your phone for granted, but for some people, it's a lifesaver. You know, it's an infinite wealth of knowledge just in your pocket that you can use to sort of navigate anything. And everyone has different ways of communicating. You know, some people use text to speech. So for some people, technology like that really is an asset, and I love how they've sort of shown that. I do agree that she is sort of overlooked by Sheldon, because when we were discussing this list and discussing the candidates for it, I didn't even think of Amy, but having watched that clip just now, I can definitely see it. I can definitely see why she's here.
So let's move on to our final character who is up against Amy, and that's Billy Cranston from the Power Rangers film.
Yep.
Yeah.
Logan, tell us about Billy.
So Billy is a beloved character, not only in the autistic community, but in, as far as I know, the Power Rangers fandom as well. He's incredibly endearing, incredibly smart and intellectual, sort of likes to have a routine when it's in his control, but when it's not in control, he finds ways around that, which I really, really like, because sometimes life doesn't go the way we planned, and especially being who he is, being a superhero, you know, things aren't always going to go the way you want them to go. And the way he just sort of quickly finds solutions to things and quickly adds it all up in his head and makes sense of it is just so incredibly clever.
He's our first character who he actually says in the on screen who says he's autistic.
Yeah.
And his friends include him and help him. But he's also really laid back and uses his own voice, and just really is completely part of the team. He doesn't have a special place in that team because of autism.
When I watched it, I didn't even notice that he was on it until someone spoke to me after the film, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
I'm on the spectrum.
Well, is that like a workout program? Like Tybo?
No, it's a diagnosis.
I know. It was a joke. I was kidding.
See, that's the thing. I didn't get the joke.
Like, yeah, that's the thing. I don't understand jokes. And then he keeps explaining himself, and then the guy just turns to him and says, like, dude, it's fine, it's cool. And then after that, for the rest of the film, they drop it. You know, that's the only time it's ever brought up.
That's good, because often, and what tends to annoy us is that when somebody is autistic on screen, that is their story arc, that's their character arc, and that is the whole point of them being there. And they talk about autism a lot and explain it to other people, whereas we're just normal people, and it'd be nice if we had other storylines.
Yeah. And speaking of that, there's another scene in the film that I really like, where he's talking to that same character. He has like a tag on his ankle, the other character does, like a police tag, and he asks Billy to deactivate it, which is a bad thing to do. Like, you shouldn't be encouraging that, but he does it anyway, which I really like. He's not a perfect person, you know. He just essentially helped a criminal, but that's just, you know, they're best friends. That's what their character, that's what they would do as a character, you know. I feel like in another script written by like another person, they would have been like, oh, the autistic character can't help a criminal, you know, that's bad representation. But what people don't understand is representation is a very wide spectrum. You know, we want autistic villains, you know, because that's just another character, you know. And I'm not saying that Billy is a villain, because he isn't, but I like how he has sort of this, you know, sort of this dodgy side to him, where he will sort of do risky things sometimes.
Yeah. And
he knows what he was doing. He knows what he was doing was a bad thing. So it's not like the other guy manipulated him. The other guy was actually against it. He's like, no, you can't do that, that's illegal. And then he just like goes on a laptop and just goes, yeah, it's deactivated. And then the guy hugs him and he's like, please don't touch me. which is just which is so good that it was just that tone change.
So we've got 4 really quite different portrayals, and like we say, we're not saying that every one of these characters is autistic. We're not told that they are, but for the community that we're in, we can totally relate to the way they navigate their problems and navigate social situations and sensory inputs. So that's why we've included them in our group of Geeks and Nerds. If you think we've spoken a load of nonsense and you've got your own views on this, then let us know in the comments, and get voting so that we can see who gets through to the next round.